Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. First of all, nais ko pong magpasalamat sa UPLB Computer Science Society for giving me this opportunity to present my bill, House Bill 1101, for the promotion and development of free open source software and for other purposes. Ako po ay nagmula rin sa UPLB. I graduated from the university in 1993, and I am, unfortunately, I cannot be with you this afternoon, and bihira na po ang pagkakataon na ako ay nakakapunta sa UPLB, so I really miss going to UPLB, but I'm really very proud to be a graduate of the University of the Philippines at Los Baños. Kumusta po sa inyong lahat dyan? The bill that I filed is House Bill 1101, and the reason for filing this bill was because of one experience that I had a few years ago on my first term in Congress. I was using, as usual, as most of us do, a pirated copy of Windows OS, but I didn't know na pirated pala yung copying ginagamit namin, at may lumabas na lang bigla na warning na it was pirated, no? Bagamat original yung equipment na ginagamit namin. So nag-isip ako, is there a better way, no? Maaari bang iwasan itong ganitong klaseng problema, at meron pa ba tayong ibang choice aside from proprietary software? At tama-tama naman, may kasama rin ako sa office ko noon, sa staff ko na taga UPLB din, no? Who graduated computer science, and he told me all about free open source software, no? At doon ho nagsimula yan, pinag-aralan namin at nagtanong-tanong kami, and we finally decided that this was the best option for our government to take, no? To use free open source software. Kaya ho i-file namin itong bill na ito. There are two basic objectives of the bill. First is to encourage the use and development of free open source software in both the public and private sectors. And secondly is to mandate the use of free open source software in all government agencies, except in extraordinary situations where it is not practicable. So this is not a prohibition of the use of proprietary software in government, but rather a conscious effort to use and develop free open source software and open standards in the government itself. Let me just run through some of the main features of the bill. First, on the declaration of policy, we are declaring the use of free open source software and open standards developed by Filipinos. And second, we want to define what, at least in law, what open standards are, what open formats are, what are free open source software, and mandate the government to recognize the licenses, no, the various licenses in this area. Napaka-importante kasi, lalo na sa ating gobyerno, sa ating legal na sistema, na kinikilala officially, formally, itong mga bagay na ito para ma-recognize at magamit, no? At maging matibay ang batayan ng paggamit nitong mga platforms na ito. Pangatlo, we are mandating the use of open standards, formats, and open source software in the public sector, except in extraordinary circumstances as determined by public hearing. Ibig sabihin, ang magiging default ng gobyerno sa kanyang software, sa kanyang information technology platforms ay open source, no? And also the use of open standards and open formats. So this is the default. Of course, in the rare circumstances na walang equivalents or alternatives to proprietary software, we would allow still the use of proprietary software, pero kailangan dumaan sa public hearing, no? At kailangan patunayan muna ng mga ahensya ng gobyerno na talagang hindi uubra ang open source or open standards or open formats, and that they really have to use proprietary software products. So again, it is not a prohibition on proprietary software, but rather a conscious choice towards open source, open standards, and open formats. Another feature of the bill ay ang pagbibigay ng preference sa Filipino-owned ICT companies sa procurement system ng gobyerno. So this is again a conscious choice, conscious preference for Filipino IT products, because we believe that kung meron man tayong gagamitin ng mga na IT technologies, ang pagkukunan natin dapat ang sources nito should be Filipinos and Filipino companies, because we believe that we have a lot of talent, and we have very good software companies, software developers who we should really tap for our needs. Another feature of the bill is that the promotion of open source, open standards, and open formats through non-fiscal incentives. No? Mahirap po kasi yung fiscal incentives dahil ang sinasabi sa atin, palaging kulang ang pondo. So yung mga non-fiscal incentives, encouragements, will be provided for FOSS. Another feature is the promotion of FOSS and open standards in educational institutions, and the prohibition the prohibition of schools from offering certification programs exclusively for proprietary software. Ang ibig sabihin natin dito, hindi pwedeng ang eskwelahan ay puro proprietary lamang ang ituturo. No, there should always be the teaching and development of open source technologies in our schools and other educational institutions. We are also pushing for the ban on the patenting of software, although at present prohibited na ho ang pagpapatent ng software, but we would like stronger language in our intellectual property code to that effect. Pangwalo po, we want the creation of the Office on FOSS Migration as an attached agency to either to the Department of Transportation or Communication, or the CICT, or the Department of Information Communications Technology, kung matuloy na ho yan. Ibig sabihin, magkakaroon talaga ng isang ahensya na mangangalaga doon sa migration from generally proprietary software na siyang ginagamit sa gobyerno ngayon tungo doon sa open source, open standards, and open formats. At dito ho sa ating batas, nagsiset tayo ng targets, no? Within 5 years, ang gusto natin maipatupad na itong migration na ito, ma-mandate na natin yung paggamit ng open source, open standards, open formats. Ngayon, ano ang dahilan? No? Bakit natin kailangan gawin ito? Bakit kailangan i-legislate? Tingin namin ay mas malaki ang pakinabang ng mamamayan kapag consciously ay pinili natin ang open source, open standards, and open formats sa ating gobyerno, and hopefully also in the private sector. Unang-una, yung access to public information will be ensured, no? Because of the nature of open source and open standards. So mas magiging madali para sa publiko ang makapag-access ng information, because there will be common formats for all the documents, and hindi ka na mangangailangan ng expensive overbearing licenses to access public documents and public data. Pangalawa, tingin namin ito ay magpapababa ng overall cost ng ICT sa public sector, dahil nga sa napakaliit na halaga ng licenses na kinakailangan para sa open source software. Pangatlo, syempre, again, greater access to information technology because of the nature of open source software. Pang-apat, yung pag-encourage ng self-reliant and the genuinely Filipino IT industry. No, dahil sa tingin natin, mas may puwang ang pagtataguyod ng mga genuinely Filipino IT companies using open source as a platform, no, as compared to proprietary. And lastly, we think that the technology provides greater security for highly sensitive government and private information systems. In other words, sa pangkalahatan, sa tingin namin, mas malaki ang benepisyo para sa gobyerno at para sa mamamayan kung ang gagamitin na ng gobyerno natin ay open source software, and it will employ open standards and open formats. Now, ang status ng bill na ito, final natin ito as early as 2006. Pero hanggang sa ngayon po ay hindi pa ito pumapasa sa level ng Committee on Information and Communications Technology. As you know, ang proprietary software industry is a very strong sector, and they have a very strong lobby, and they have a very strong presence in the House of Representatives. Kaya tingin namin medyo mabigat na laban talaga itong hinaharap natin, at ako ay umaapila, no, humihingi ng inyong suporta para sa pagtutulak ng panukalang batas na ito. No, I hope that the UPLB Computer Society and our friends in the open source community can help us out in lobbying for the passage of this bill. I hope that yung mga members, especially ng Information and Communications Technology Committee, ay inyong masulatan o makaugnayan para at least man lang ay bigyan ng puwang ang deliberasyon para sa panukalang batas na ito. It is really strange that after more than a year, hindi ni isang hearing po ay wala pang ginagawa ang ICT Committee ng House. Baka kailangan ako ng mas agresibong pagtutulak, hindi lang sa bahagi namin, sa bayan muna, kundi mas importante sa bahagi ng ating IT community, especially yung FOSS community. Kasi just like any legislation, hanggat walang clamor, no, hanggat walang pressure mula doon sa stakeholders at sa mamamayan, ay hindi talaga magkaka-interes ang mga kongresista, no, ang mga legislators natin. Especially on this matter na medyo bibihira lang sa Kongreso ang may alam at may kakayanang maunawaan kaagad ano ba itong open source software and technology in general. So I hope that you can think up of ways on how to convince our legislators to support our bill, House Bill 1101, mandating the use of open source software technologies in government and the development of a genuinely Filipino IT industry. So hanggang doon na lang muna po. Muli po ako'y nagpapasalamat sa UPLB Computer Society sa pagkakataong ito, and sana po ay magtuloy-tuloy yung ating ugnayan at yung ating pagtutulungan para sa mas malayang software industry, mas malayang information technology para sa ating bansa at sa ating mamamayan. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat.